The following items were chosen after a careful examination of the game's mechanics, user interfaces, user experiences, and pre-existing control setups. They've been deliberately ordered to help assist those in the transition from a regular gamepad and to also increase one's skill with the Steam controller while progressing through this list. This video is mainly for newcomers to the Steam controller, and while I may be targeting a steadily shrinking audience, I hope it will provide the veterans of the Steam controller a list of new games to try out this holiday season. Number 10. This spot is the most important for the new adopters, despite being at the bottom of the list. The game itself doesn't have to be Batman Lord of the Rings edition, but action-adventure games are an excellent start for opening yourself up to the strange layout of the Steam controller. Playing a familiar game like Middleearth allows you to remain comfortable and cool without feeling overwhelmed by the smaller and oddly placed face buttons. The name of the game is to familiarize yourself with the new control layout, and Shadow of Mordor will set you up for success. You don't need to worry about binds too much, just pick the recommended config and jump right in. With a strict emphasis on face button driven actions and movement handled by a familiar physical joystick, Middleearth will let your mind take a back seat while you come to grips with the new rear paddles and the big mouse-like trackpad. Number 9. Project Cars is probably my favorite racing game, and while I'm no car buff, I do enjoy racing around the Nürburgring from time to time. But why is a niche game like Project Cars on this list? Wouldn't a more arcadey racing game fit better at number 9? I don't think so. While you can get a general idea of how the Steam controller would function for a casual racing game, the idea of playing a simulated racer with the Steam controller falls directly in line with the notion that the controller is quite the versatile piece of equipment. And since P-Cars contains out-of-the-box gamepad support, the Steam controller falls nicely into a category I'm calling shit that works so well it's surprising. Exhibit A. Gyro steering. For a game that sells itself on bullet points like customizable tire pressure that reacts to an ever-changing dynamic weather system where every turn, blade of grass, or pebble has a direct effect on your car's handling, the Steam controller excels as an out-of-the-box solution. You don't need a G27 setup to get a solid wheel on a budget feel. That's not to say this will lead you to chuck your $400 sim cockpit out the window. I think most people realize that. But the controller can provide an excellent starting point to see what the simulated racing buzz is all about. Number 8. I love this game for two reasons, and both of them in tandem is why we see Trine at the number 8 spot on this list. The first is it's an excellent introduction to platformers on the Steam controller. You can utilize the joystick to control your character's movement, but for those moments you need to be as precise with the touchpad D-pad as you normally are with the traditional one, then Trine is the set of training wheels you want. Trine has a beautiful aura about it, in a way that pulls you in with its fantastic art and storytelling, instead of utilizing bombastic weaponry and twitch reaction platforming. It's a slower paced game that remains challenging without overcompensating, so we have this perfect environment for becoming best friends with their new D-pad. If we look across the street on the controller, we'll see reason number 2 why Trine is here. The main attraction. A mouse-like touchpad. As those of you who have tried the controller know, the trackpad is an odd beast. It takes time to adjust to the feel of the haptics, the rate your thumb glides on the surface of the pad, or how some games can respond one way and other games in a completely different manner. Trine's low-stress gameplay allows you to get comfortable with the right pad. Aiming, drawing boxes, or positioning your shield are very simple game mechanics that play well here. Number 7. There's a reason Valve bundled Portal 2 with the Steam controller, aside from it being their own IP. Portal is a shooting game without the combat. You progress at your own pace, and the challenge falls on puzzle solving rather than twitch shooting. It's a game that's less about speed and accuracy, but more about approaching each scene with a thoughtful and deliberate manner. But that's why Portal 2 is at our number 7 spot. By this point, you've mastered the new layout of the buttons and the shape of the controller. You feel comfortable with the touchpads thanks to Trine. Valve's default config works well, just use it. Joystick to move since we don't want to get too fancy yet. The right touchpad has all the right configs that make the controller comfy in an FPS environment. The combination of the touchpad with the gyro, like we saw in Project Cars, means we can be as tight with our accuracy as we need to be. This is a great learning tool if you want to get into FPS games with the Steam controller. I cannot recommend this enough. Number 6. The D-pad in Trine got you warmed up, the mouse in Portal got you fired up. Let's put those together and have a hectic haptic holiday and assault Android cactus. Mouse region is the topic of discussion here. What is mouse region? Take your screen, shrink it down, smaller, stop, lay that over your touchpad. That is mouse region. This is a great tool for AAC and other top-down games. In Assault Android Cactus and Helldiver, you get a nice crosshair on the screen when you're using mouse controls. And this is a neat tool the developer added, and I prefer to use it over a laser to assist you with your aim. The mouse region tool and a crosshair give us this instant feedback on where we're aiming within the game space, something that a traditional laser cannot easily convey. With all the added accuracy of a crosshair and a mouse region, you'll be plowing through robots like it's your job. Number 5. More platformers are not a bad thing. More varied platformers are even better. Axiom Verge is everything Trine is not. The focus here is on gameplay, weapon upgrades, tight controls, and exploration, but why is all this important? Well, we've already shown how the Steam controller fares in a slow-paced game, but how about an environment where quick reactions and accurate inputs means the difference between life or death? The Steam controller boasts an insanely customizable D-pad, and those who've spent a proper amount of time getting used to it really sing its praise. I'm no different. In fact, I prefer it over using a raised hard plastic pad found on a DS4 or the Xbox controller. The movements are more elegant, more closely resembling a dance enacted by your thumbs rather than a requirement of brute force to register the desired input. To me, this is a great solution to a problem I've had when playing D-pad heavy games for long periods of time. On a console controller, the D-pad tends to leave my thumbs sore after an hour or two of relentless firm presses. But here, I can play for as long as I like, no clicks or presses needed. Rolling from left to right or down to down right takes no effort, and is as natural to me as a traditional controller is to you right now. The customizable part means you can shrink or enlarge a dead zone to get that perfect sweet spot to complement your playstyle. Moving some face buttons to the rear grips or even turning turbo on for the face buttons means your thumbs rest comfortably. This allows you to squeeze another hour or two in for jumping and shoot. Number 4. Any fighting game will do, but MK Streamline Combat goes well with the D-pad. Axiom Verge showed you the ropes, now Mortal Kombat will allow you to show off your competitive nature. Like Axiom Verge, the D-pad becomes swift and straightforward, only needing a little bit of tinkering on your part. For X-rays, grabs, combo breakers, or even regular combos, the multi-button tool allows you to modify existing buttons to gain that slight advantage over the competition. Number 3. Torchlight is a game that feels like the Steam controller was made exclusively for it. And if you're into this type of game, then you know the struggle of wanting to achieve maximum comfy levels. Torchlight, and other ARPGs like it, rely heavily on keyboard and mouse inputs, and will only work with a controller after some heavy tinkering with third-party programs. I chose Torchlight for this spot over something like Diablo to show just how effective the controller is at bypassing the setups required to get this game to work with a standard controller. Diablo's ports turned me away from including Diablo at the number 3 spot, but it's okay. I kinda like Torchlight more anyway. The top-rated community configurations are pretty much perfect for this game, so like the other items on this list, Torchlight fits in nicely. Number 2. Civilization 5 provides the best mouse-like experience anywhere in your home, on your couch, or in your bed suspended from your ceiling, wherever. I don't play a lot of grand strategy, but I understand the appeal behind them. Civ 5 is a relaxing game, like the rest of them, and pairing the controller with the Steam Link out into the living room might make Civ 5 the next best party game. Move over, Smash. The excellent official binding for Civ 5 means you spend less time fiddling with the UI and binds and more time killing barbarians, or playing the drinking game. Note, I do not endorse you getting alcohol poisoning, by the way. The only modification I'd make to the official binding takes 3 seconds, which is to change the mouse to mouse region. By now, you should be a master at the Steam controller. We know where the face buttons live, we understand what usefulness the grips have, and have experienced untethered gyro-driven driving. A casual platformer played well with the D-pad, and the mouse trackpad was beautiful in Portal. Both pads provide an absolute delight to strike down legions of robots in Assault Android Cactus. And we've taken a peek at how to tweak the D-pad in Axiom Verge and then take those settings online in MKX. We've included mouse region again in Torchlight, and once more in Civilization 5. That brings us to 9 games for you to play this holiday, which is 8 more than the PS4 offers. And now, we've reached what is, in my opinion, the best game to play on the Steam controller. This game perfectly encapsulates all of the work Valve has done over the past years to bring your favorite games out into the living room. Number 1 on this list is a game that you cannot currently play on a controller, and doing so will make you smile in nostalgia whilst keeping the experience new and exciting. Number 1.
What is it like to be afraid?
System Shock 2. The wonderful folks at Irrational Games have breathed new life into this cult classic, and if you haven't played it yet, you absolutely need to. System Shock 2 is still terrifying to this day, and while some will say the gameplay feels antiquated, I disagree with this sentiment. The Shock series had a cyberpunk beginning with the System Shock games well before BioShock became the legend that it is today. If you're a fan of the newer Shock games, then you'll feel right at home with the deeper RPG system that encourages replayability that was lost in the later games. Irrational took no shortcuts when it came to providing a clear configuration for System Shock 2. All of the game's necessary functions are available with the controller right out of the gate. Moving, PDA, leaning with gyro, changing ammo types, reloads, weapon settings, selecting all your side moves and weapons in a touch menu. It's all there without needing to configure anything. If a 16-year-old game can get updated, modern Steam controller support, there is absolutely no reason why Bethesda or Rockstar can't support their games to this level. So Irrational, good on you. I'm eager for System Shock 3, by the way. So there we have it. 10 awesome games. 10 awesome configurations all ready for you the moment you start the game. Was there something I left off of this list? What are your favorite games to play with your Steam controller? Let me know down in the comments. And while you're thinking of your favorites, let's take a look at some honorable mentions.
So let your head down now, watch your girls. Yeah, maybe it's not so bad. I'll go ahead and let it down. Let it bleed. Did you get what you want? Did you get what you need? Tell me what's the bed you made with it that bad? Oh, white just tougher.